Every morning, I wake up and I repeat the same mantra. May my hands work toward healing. May my heart hold compassion. May my words be uplifting. And may my thoughts foster connection. Kevin's heard it a million times. These are my soul words, the words that reflect how I want to live every day. Healing, uplifting, and connection, they're easy. They're action. They're verbs. They're easy to understand. But compassion, what is compassion? Webster's defines compassion as a noun. That means sympathetic consciousness of others' distress together with a desire to alleviate it. Okay, so I have questions. What does that even mean? Are humans born with compassion, or do they learn it? Is compassion entirely a human condition? By the way, the answer to those last two questions are studies show, yes, humans are born with compassion, and no, we are not the only species that exhibits it. There are animals who exhibit compassion as well. But as for what it really means, I don't think I really understood the meaning of it until I was well into adulthood. In fact, I remember vividly the first time it came up and I rolled it around in my brain. I was 20 years old and I had an experience that changed my life. So you have to listen to another story. Another one of my life stories. Up until that point, I was a typical clueless kid pretending to be an adult, living day to day and trying to figure out who I wanted to be. If anyone had asked who I was, I would have labeled myself an animal lover, first and foremost, because, well, I had lots of cats, so that hasn't changed any. And I was completely obsessed with them, so that hasn't changed any either. And because I found such an honest and total joy in every living creature, from prickly porcupines to sleek dolphins to warbling songbirds. I would stop to talk to every dog that would listen to me. I rode horses, and I loved every single thing about those big, silly creatures. The sounds they make, their scent, the soft space between their nose where you can pet them and they make those beautiful noises and their little lips. Oh, horses are amazing. I love spiders before loving spiders was cool. All in all, though, I was still so very young, and if my sister's watching, she will remember this because for spring break in 1990, my sister and I went to Fort Lauderdale back when it was the destination to do those things. We enjoyed the beach during the day, and we went dancing in bars in the evening if I could sneak into them because I was 4 months shy of being 21. But sometimes they would let me in, so we'd go in and have fun. One afternoon, we were just walking by the lake near our hotel, and we found a duck mom, and she was sitting on a nest of 5 eggs in a cement planter, huge cement planter that was like 10 of them around the lake. And so, of course, we were fascinated. So we walked by several times a day to see if the eggs would hatch before we had to fly back home to cold, miserable New Jersey. A day or two later, we arrived to see that 4 of the 5 eggs had hatched, and all these adorable, fluffy little yellow and black ducks were in the water. They were chasing their mom, and if you've ever seen baby ducks, you know, mom goes like this, and the baby ducks are going, trying to catch up. It's the cutest thing. We were like, to say we were thrilled is an understatement. But there was one egg that was still hatching, so it was the coolest thing. We sat there, and we watched from a distance, and this little bird, he was cracking at that egg, and pieces of the shell were falling off, and then he would rest. Because it must be a lot of work to get out of an egg. Finally, he made it, and we were like giddy with joy. We were like, there he is, there he is. We were waiting for mom, thinking, like, how's she gonna get him out of there? And we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and she didn't come back. So here's this little bird making noise in a planter, and here we are, ready to go dancing. And we're like, what are we gonna do? So after a lot of debate, because I know you're not supposed to touch wildlife, whatever, we took him because she didn't come back. So we brought him in the house and we sat with him. We put him in this little hard igloo cooler that we had that we were taking to the beach. We put some blankets in there and we put a light on him so that he would be warm. I remembered some of this stuff from wherever because, mind you, there was no internet. So we didn't look anything up. We just kind of were winging it. And I knew he wasn't going to survive the night, so we took him. And he made these soft little chirpy sounds all night, and I couldn't sleep because I was just so excited that he was there and I couldn't stop looking at him. And it was actually an amazing night, as crazy as that sounds. So early the next morning, we got up and we delivered this baby that we uncreatively named Lucky, which is literally the name of every animal that comes from a difficult situation. We found a wildlife rescue that we looked up in a phone book, if you remember those. And we dropped him off, and they took him, and they said they had another little family to put him with, so he wasn't going to be alone, and we were so happy, and we left feeling just like We were like glowing. We were so excited. It was such a thrill. We were so proud that we saved this little life. When we got back to the lake, we went, of course, to see Mom and the babies. And we found Mom and we found the babies, and there were 2 of them. And so, of course, we were like, okay, what happened? So we sat, this is how we spent our vacation, no joke, like took up all our mental bandwidth. We were just like ducks. So as we watched, one of the male ducks started chasing Mom away. And when they are threatened, the moms will run from the babies or swim, so that the babies can stay safe. But the other male ducks came over and started pecking at them. I was furious. I was furious. I don't get angry very often, but I was furious. I literally jumped straight into this alligator-filled, mud-filled lake, and and it was sucking my shoes off, and I'm running, and I'm like, if I caught those ducks, I was gonna strangle them, which isn't really true, but I was so angry. So, of course, I got out of the lake, which literally I lost my shoes, I lost my watch, whatever. I got out of the lake, and my sister and I sat for the next 3 days of our vacation with a bucket of rocks by the lake. And we chased off the male ducks, hoping that when we left, the babies were big enough to survive. So we did manage to save those babies. So literally 3 days of duck watching. And at some point during the Great Duck Vigil of 1990, we went out to eat, and I ordered a sausage McMuffin. While I ate, I contemplated those male ducks. And at the time, I mistakenly believed that they were killing the baby ducks to eat them, which is not the case. Actually, they were killing them because they wanted to entice Mom to allow them to make more baby ducks, because the whole point of most wildlife is to reproduce. But even if they were, regardless of what they were doing, there was no evil or cruel intent. It was literally their instinct. They kind of had no choice. But I had a choice. I could have chosen compassion, but instead I ordered out of habit. I didn't think about what I was eating. And habits are hard to change. It takes time, I think what they say, 90 days, something like that, to change a habit. It takes dedication, and for eating habits, it's 5 or 6 decisions a day, every day, for the rest of your life. And in the early 90s, there were no good meat substitutes, let me tell you, and very few options for vegetarians or vegans. And I was even unclear how to say the word vegan. Was it like vegan? Was it like vegan, which seems like it would make more sense if it comes from vegetarian or vegin? I didn't even know how to say it. But what did become clear to me at that exact moment was that I called myself a lover of animals and prided myself on being a really great one, but was I? Really? Could I love one set of animals and be blind to the suffering of another? Which animals had value to be protected and loved, and which ones only have value as food? And why? Like, who decided this? How could I have been blind to this for my whole life? Right then and there, I decided that I needed to live without another feeling, thinking being suffering for me. I realized that however hard it might be to abolish my part in the cruelty of the food animal industry, it was going to be easier by far than trying to justify to myself the suffering that I was unintentionally but absolutely causing. But this is actually not a story about animals, really not. It's not a story about vegetarianism. I felt sad that those animals were unlucky enough to be the ones that we eat. I felt sympathy for their suffering. I became conscious of their distress. Dare I even say I woke to their pain and fear. I felt compassion for them. Really, what is woke? It is realizing your compassion. It's waking up to it. So, okay, great, now what, right? Compassion is an emotion, but emotion can spark action, because action is the key word. It's one thing to care about a cause, but it's another thing to work for that cause. Compassion without action belongs right up there with thoughts and prayers. Pretty useless as a noun. It's action that's the hard part. And it can seem hopeless to have compassion these days when the world is kind of a dumpster fire that we literally can't escape. Every minute of every day, you're seeing a new crisis that inspires compassion. It's overwhelming and it's numbing. And sometimes that makes you not want to move, which is really bad. So like, where do you start? Why bother? What can one person even do? And does anybody else care? Well, you know what? I care, and you care, and you care, and you care. And I bet if you ask every single person in this room about the causes that mattered most to you, 10 people would agree to support your cause, because that is the magic of Unitarian Universalism, I think. but I know that that's the magic of this congregation. So what causes do you care about? It seems like everybody has one or two or 12 or more these days. What concerns about people, places, or things cause your heart to squeeze? And you know you won't be able to beat it freely again until you're working to make things better, until you're taking action. What are you willing to do to help those causes? What level of dedication are you willing to put into it? My hero, Jane Goodall, I can't get through a service without talking about Jane Goodall. She said, "You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. How much will you sacrifice for your compassion? Because there's always sacrifice. Whether you donate money or time, or you change your shopping or eating or entertainment habits, you're making a sacrifice to make a change that you feel is worthwhile to make the world your vision of a better place." But wait, sacrifice? Nobody said anything about sacrifice. Who wants to sacrifice? That's no fun. Why bother? Sacrifice for the common good is a recurring theme among most of the biggest religious practices on earth. Christ is one example of the beauty of sacrificing yourself for the good of others. And the religion that bears his name often asks for sacrifice to help improve the lives of others, thereby improving your own. Because think about it, what feels better than helping someone? It's the most amazing feeling. Even helping those ducks had my sister and I practically dancing. We were so excited. It lifted us up for weeks, no joke, and literally changed my entire life. There's a joy and a peace that comes from service to others that's hard to match, because there's no better mood boost than being a hero. Helping a loved one, assisting a stranger, giving aid to a stray cat, or a hungry deer, or an injured bird, or helping a scared child find his mom in a crowded store, or helping someone cover their order when they're short by just $5 and they're trying to figure out what they have to put back. It makes you kind of glow, doesn't it? Like, it makes you feel so good. For some, sacrificing is standing outside with signs protesting or boycotting certain stores or restaurants. For others, it's discontinuing or dramatically decreasing the amount of time you spend watching certain channels or scrolling or doom scrolling social media platforms. I have no doubt that many of us in this room are trying to buy less from Amazon, although it's really hard. Really hard. Over the past few years, and in particular since 2024, since the election, I've spent a lot more time researching my choices to ensure that everything I focus my attention on and spend my money on is aligned with my compassion, whether that was shunning ShopRite for Wegmans or switching gas stations or deleting Facebook, which I admit I did delete it for a little while, but Blue Sky didn't fill the same gap, so I am back on it, but on a much more limited basis. I was addicted to Facebook. Now I limit it to sharing animals that need homes and posting pictures or cute stuff for the most part. In between elections, we vote with our pocketbooks. Look how an outraged community canceling Disney Plus helped get Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. If only we could have done that for Colbert, but I did cancel Paramount, by the way, and sent them a scathing letter. Too late. In a perfect world, it would be easy to know which organizations were worthy of our efforts, our attention, our money, but it can be murky to try to figure out who donates to what, who supports what causes, who is environmentally friendly. It can be exhausting. And in today's world with AI and fake media and deceptive marketing, it's practically impossible to know what's really going on. But don't lose hope, because you don't have to be perfect to make a difference. One of my favorite vegan authors, Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, says, "Don't do nothing because you can't do everything. Do something, anything. Every little bit helps. Even if it seems like nothing you do makes a difference, it does. Ordering an Impossible Whopper at Burger King doesn't go far in saving a cow, but in a year, choices like that can save dozens of animals, and I would like to think that in my 35 years, I've saved hundreds." And I'm sure everyone in this room knows what Margaret Mead said: "Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Being part of a compassionate community helps. It helps so that you don't feel alone. It gives you somewhere to turn when things aren't going well. And it lets you know that your efforts will produce results in double or in triple or to the 1,000th power, depending on who's on your team. There's 79 million people on Team Vegetarian. That's a lot of animals saved. Look at the power of the No Kings rallies. I was standing there in the rain for some of them, with Tyler for one of them, for hours shouting joyfully at the cars who honked and laughing and smirking at the other ones who gave us the other finger because they didn't want us being there. Millions of people took time out of their lives to make some really creative and fun signs, to drive around, to drive out wherever it was, stand around chanting and communing with like-minded friends during a time when companionship and understanding and connection are so critical to our mental health. On that day, we were all Unitarian Universalists. We were all upholding the UU values of justice and equity. If you're like me, you look for ways to help. And there are so very many ways to help right now. Do you think you have nothing to give? I disagree. UUCSH alone has tons of ways to help. Have you seen the calendar? It doesn't always even fit on a slide. And if it does, you can't read it. Helping others doesn't have to be donating your entire fortune to PETA or working for peanuts at a nonprofit. There are small things you can do every day that make a difference if you're just looking for them. A couple years ago, we went to Adventure Aquarium, which, by the way, I highly recommend because they have hippos, and they're the only aquarium in the whole country that has hippos. Hippos are usually in zoos. They have a beautiful setup for the hippos. And my husband knows that when we go, they have like a stadium seating, and he just goes and sits because I'm not leaving anytime soon. I could watch them. They're so graceful, even though they're so big, but I could talk about animals all day. Anyway, as we were leaving after a really long day, we were in the parking lot, and the line was creeping along because you had to pay when you left. So finally we got near the front. The car in front of us was taking forever, and as we watched, we saw the driver was just trying card after card after card, and nothing was working. So the hand would reach out, pull back, and then wait a minute, it would reach out, and so we were stuck. Like there was nowhere to go. So of course people started honking, because that helps. So I got out and I walked up to the machine and I stuck my card in and I waited and it processed the $6 parking fee and the gate lifted and I took my card and I turned around. I really didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to make it awkward. I just wanted to leave, kind of. I wanted everybody else to leave. But the harried mom in the car with her two littles tapped my hand as I turned around and she looked up at me and she thanked me with her wet eyes. She was so thankful. And I walked back to my car feeling that joy that comes from small acts of kindness. It wasn't pre-planned. It didn't take a lot of money, but it surely made that woman's day, and it helped us, and it helped everybody behind us too. So you have to be on the lookout for those small opportunities because really they are everywhere. Do you like animals, like me? You can donate money, food, toys, or your time to go help walk, clean, and feed and love the homeless dogs and cats waiting for their forever full bellies and soft beds. And if this is on your agenda, by the way, please see me because I've got shelter hookups. Do you want to feed the homeless? We do that here. Every week you can donate food to the food pantry or to the local food bank. Do you like kids? You can be a tutor. You can be a mentor or a big brother, big sister. Do you have more money than you really need and you're not going to buy a rocket and go to Mars? There's a million places that could use a monthly donation so they could count on that money to do the good work that they do. Or you could make one large donation in memory or in honor of someone you love. No money? You can donate shoes. You can donate your unused eyeglasses. You can bring your kids' prior reading level books to the elementary school. You can download an app for the blind and help them find things in their own home, which my sister does, which she loves when they call her. Do you have a talent that you can share? You can crochet blankets for babies or hats for seniors. You can play the piano at a senior center or teach a lonely high school neighbor how to play guitar. You can bake cakes for foster kids. Or Make-A-Wish kids. You've seen mine. That's what Julianne and I do. Because really, no kid should not have a cake on their birthday. That's just not okay for me. And the more beautiful I can make it, the happier that makes me. The thing is, these things take your time, your energy, your money, your commitment. Your commitment to sacrifice. Your willingness to give something away. Your passion, your talent, your time, your money, you have to give that away freely with no benefit to yourself. That is compassion being a verb. And that is compassion in action. And it's how we're going to transform the world.